Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Wynwood Buddhist Temple's virtual Dharma service. We will begin the service as usual with the chanting of the Vandana and Tisarana. This is found on page 7 of your Red Service book. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Amida Butts, Namanda Butts, Namanda Butts. The recitation for today is the Four Noble Truths. Let's follow along. Number 1, dukkha, difficulty. Dissatisfaction comes from not living in accord with the truth of impermanence and interdependence. Number 2, samudaya, or arising, the delusion of self-importance expressed through greed and anger is a cause of dukkha, or suffering. Nirodhana, cessation, the transformation of greed, anger, and delusion is the cure for dukkha. And marga, or path, Shakyamuni Buddha taught the Eightfold Path as medicine for putting an end to dukkha. Namo Amida Butts, Namanda Butts. Today's sutra is verses reaffirming the vows. This is found on page 117 of the Red Service book. Namanda, 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 Namanda. I have made unrivaled vows and will reach the highest path. If I fail in any way, may I not attain Buddhahood. Should I not provide to all for countless kalpas to come, aid in times of suffering, may I not attain Buddhahood. I will reach enlightenment, but unless my Buddha name resounds throughout the universe, may I not attain Buddhahood. I will practice the noble path, wisely, mindfully, free of greed, seek to reach the supreme way. be a guide to one and all. May my power shine great light to illumine and dispel the darkness of the three poisons, and save all from suffering. With eyes of wisdom I'll remove the darkness of ignorance. I will close all evil paths, open gates of highest good. When I attain Buddhahood, light will shine throughout all lands, light brighter than sun and moon, outshining all heavenly lights, giving my virtues to all, not forsaking anyone. I will proclaim the Dharma like the roar of a great lion, bowing before all Buddhas, steadfastly gaining virtues, with wisdom fulfilling my vows. I shall be a guide to all, like the wisdom of my teacher. May my wisdom also shine all throughout the universe, and illumine one and all. If I shall fulfill these vows, may all lands tremble with joy. From the heavens, wondrous flowers rain down upon all the lands. Aman, 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 shared equally by all, together attaining awakened mind. We are born in the land of peace. Namandav, 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 Namandav. Well, good morning once again, everyone. Well, here I am at the podium this morning as an unscheduled speaker. You know, we were supposed to have someone else today, but as it turned out, the scheduled speaker was not able to come. So things changed, and so here I am. In life, we just have to go with the flow. and not against the so-called current, as is written in the book Oceans, a very popular book written by Reverend Kenneth Tanaka. You recall that in that book, Reverend Tanaka says that there's a story that captures the heart of Jodo Shinshu spirituality. The story of the drowning sailor symbolizes our human condition, which is best explained by the Buddha's realization that we all experience suffering. That I did, learning on Tuesday that the scheduled speaker was not able to make it. What to do? What to do? I thought for a moment that since we were recording the Dharma talk, we could use one of that person's former talk as a substitute. But found out that the audio was not as good as it could have been, so we didn't use that. So for the most part, Tuesday morning, I decided to watch a movie, just relax for a bit. I watched a movie called The Ballad of Narayama. Have any of you watched that movie? It is, by today's standard, probably a category PG-13, I would think. It is an old movie released around the year 1984, and it is the story of a lady around 69 years of age as she prepares herself for a frightening ritual in the village. Because of the scarcity of food supplies, after reaching a certain age, she has to go into the deep mountains and left there to die. In a Buddhist allegory, a son carries his mother up a mountain on his back. During the journey, she stretches out her arms, catching the twigs along the way, and scattering them as they walked, so that her son would be able to find the way home. A poem that celebrates the story goes like this. In the depths of the mountains, whom was it, aged mother snapped one twig after another? Heedless of herself, she did so for the sake of her son, so that he could find his way back. A good story. Please join me by putting your hands together as I read the words of the fifth Pure Land Master, Shandao, or Zendo in Japanese. To realize Shinjing oneself and to guide others to Shinjing is among the difficult things, yet even more difficult. To awaken beings everywhere to great compassion is truly to respond in gratitude to the Buddha's benevolence. Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Back in 2010, I believe, about 4 years following that, I had been a daily attendant at the Hompa Honganji Betsuing on Pali Highway, the main temple of the Jodo Shinshu sect in Hawaii. For the first 2 months, as a trainee in the process of learning the daily life of a fully certified minister, and after that, I took part in the daily morning services with other ministers there. There were 5 of us, which includes the Rimbang, or the head minister. During this period, I am constantly reminded of the fragile nature of human existence. There are many, many gestures of donations and offerings by family members who go there for memorial services for loved ones lost. This is a great time to express our gratitude for all beings in which we are indebted. This time of reflection allows us to reconnect with our loved ones and to reinforce the tie with all of life and the wish for its continuity from generation to generation. A while ago, I believe, in one of my Dharma talks, I mentioned that in just 10 generations, going backwards from your parents, we have over 1,000 people directly responsible for us being here today. And if only one of the 1,000 or more people were missing, we ourselves would not be here today. So especially on a Monday, the room behind the main temple is filled with flowers. It was donated by families who gathered there for services. These flowers are not thrown away, they're recycled. They're recycled to decorate the altars. And there are at least 8 altars throughout the Betsuig. Each morning it is necessary to remove the flowers that have wilted and then were no longer fresh and presentable. Along with the flowers, there are other items people place in the columbarium, or nokotsudo as it is called, in memory of the deceased. It is during this time of cleaning that the fragility of human life is realized. The flowers that were offered only a few days ago were no longer presentable. They were wilted and the petals had fallen. It is now trash. The water that was once fresh and sustained the flower's life was now dirty and smelly. The flower that was a representation of all that is beautiful and an expression of life is now garbage and must be thrown away. The vase that held the flowers must be rinsed and washed. While putting my nose to the smell of the rotting water, I am in denial of the impermanent nature of life that surrounds me. The vase is washed quickly to make it available for the next batch of fresh flowers. This act tells me that I am constantly looking forward to the next moment of life filled with beauty and happiness. This process denies the past and the present. The families who offer the flowers do not see this process and the change in the life of the flower. Flowers are the offering and represents an object for which it serves, but it is not recognized as a life form of its own. And there is a sadness in the entire process. This cycle of beauty and ugliness has been repeated day after day, month after month, and year after year, and has continued here in Hawaii for over 120 years. While it is an irony of life, it is also the truth of life as well. For what we see as most beautiful is no longer beautiful, and yet our mind is always reaching for the next beauty while denying the change as it occurs right before our eyes. In contrast to what we've been talking about, I used to teach the 3rd grade religion class at the Honganji Mission School, a combined class of about 30 students, and they used to come to the temple. And for this, we first did Vadanati Sarana, as usual, offering of incense by not the whole class, but by maybe 4 members of the class, chosen by the teachers. And we chant Gasho to Amida. So once I started doing only half of Gasho to Amida in order to save time for my talk, since we only had about a half an hour for the entire service. But they insisted on doing the entire sutra. Well, I was delighted, but wondered later if it was because they wanted to chant all of it or because they didn't want to hear me talk any longer than what was necessary. In stark contrast to the flowers in the Nokotsudo, the class of 3rd graders was refreshing and a happy occasion for me. It changed my lousy attitude and it uplifted me for the rest of the day. As I sat in front of Amida Buddha, it was an expression of gratitude, a time where things indescribable in life comes together, where we can chant the words of the Buddha in appreciation of the Dharma It is a time where we can check our mind or life, take a break, so to speak, and think about, contemplate on the really important things in life. However you do take it, take the time to smell the flowers, look at the clouds and see what the Buddha is telling you about life itself. As humans, we seek and need the company of others. In psychology, it is commonly known that those with many friends hardly need anything else. However, from a religious standpoint, this might be an illusion. For example, in the case of extreme suffering, one discovers that one is utterly all alone. When one has lost a loved one and decides to dine alone at a restaurant, one is struck by this odd disparity. On the one hand, the others are dining with friends, chatting, smiling, laughing, and enjoying their dinner, while on the other hand, they're all alone. When I used to go to conferences by myself, usually the first evening before the meeting, I like to eat at a nice restaurant. For example, the people in Chicago know that there are many, many diners that go alone as they are on business trips. So they very wisely place a single diner in a section where there are all single diners. And we have a great time talking to each other, even though we've never met before. So, not only in suffering, but also in man's search for salvation and enlightenment, one does so alone. On that search, there is no such thing as we attain faith, or we are born into the Pure Land. Only the individual exists in a personal and concrete manner. There was a great story of the emphasis of the one by the Zen master Yamamoto Genpo Roshi. A man once sought him out and asked if he could serve the Roshi's temple as a lay helper. The Roshi agreed and assigned him to the kitchen. And the man performed his duties quite well. Now and then the Roshi would stop by and ask him, "For whose sake are you doing this?" The answer was, "Well, for the sake of all sentient beings." That was the reply. And this exchange was repeated many, many times thereafter. But finally, one day, the Roshi shouted, "Why can't you say just once that you're doing it for yourself?" The point is that while the individual is crucial in any religious endeavor, the fruit of what is attained is naturally and of itself manifested towards all beings. In Shin Buddhism, the great Pure Land master Shantou said, it was reiterated by Shinran Shonin, the phrase Ji Shin Kyo Ninshin, Ji Shin Kyo Ninshin, meaning attain faith yourself and then guide others to faith. Do we accomplish this by talking about our religion to others in the hope that they will become perhaps interested? Ours is not a religion of fear or retribution. I think a better way is to do what is right by others, following faithfully the Shinshu pledge or the golden chain of love, remembering the interconnectedness of all beings, whether animal, human, plant, or mineral, always cognizant of the environment and how humans impact it. For example, we follow Shantou and Shinran's admonition of Jishin Kyo Ninshin, attain faith yourself and lead others to faith. By the way, when you come to the temple someday, look on the left side wall as you face the altar. There you will see hanging a calligraphy written by the current Monshu, Kojun Otani, reading Jishin Kyonin-shin. We'll show it to you right now. Please join me once again in Gassho. To realize Shinjin oneself and to guide others to Shinjin is among the difficult things, yet even more difficult. To awaken beings everywhere to great compassion is truly to respond in gratitude to the Buddha's benevolence. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandavas. Thank you very much for listening, and we will end this session with the singing of the Golden Chain of Love, followed by the Nembutsu. Namo Amida, Namo Amida, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Namo There is no place the moon does not shine, but it only illuminates in the heart of those who gaze at it. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much for attending this virtual Dharma service. I hope to see you again next week at the same time. Thank you very much. Take care and goodbye.